My mother-in-law handed my sister-in-law a key to my house. Not her house. My house. And when I walked in and found them drinking my wine, planning a 4-month calendar of events in my living room, she didn't apologize. She smiled. And then she said the words that changed everything for me. Holly wouldn't mind. She's just my son's wife. Just his wife. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I took out my phone, and I started taking pictures. Because I had a folder in a desk drawer that I hadn't opened in 5 years. And it was about to do more damage than anything I could have said out loud.
Hey, welcome back.
If you're new here, this channel is about real women, real conflicts, and the moments where someone finally decides they're done being invisible. Today's story is mine. My name is Holly.
I'm 34.
I'm an architect. I have designed 42 houses for other people, but the one I had to fight for was my own. And I want to be upfront with you right now. This is not a story about hating your in-laws. This is not a revenge fantasy. This is a story about what happens when you spend 4 years being the easygoing one, and what it costs you, and what it looks like when you finally stop paying that price. There are 5 things I want you to walk away with today. 5 things I wish someone had told me the first year I was married. Let's get into it. The week before everything happened, my husband Mark called me at work.
Hey, he said.
Mom asked if you're heading up to the cabin this weekend. That's it. No question. No context. Just heads up. For years into my marriage, I had learned something about the Reynolds family. Information arrived after decisions had already been made. Just letting you know was never a question. It was a receipt. But I was in the middle of a deadline. I had a Vale Lodge project on my desk. So I texted Mark back, "Your mom's not planning anything for the cabin, right?" And he took 6 minutes to answer. He said, "I don't think so." I should have noticed those 6 minutes. I didn't. Here's point 1, and I want you to really hear this. In families where one person controls the room, vague answers are a form of permission. When Mark said, "I don't think so," that wasn't him being unsure. That was him leaving a door open he didn't have the courage to close. And I walked right through it. Think about your own life for a second. Have you ever gotten a heads up that didn't feel like a heads up? Just so you know, that made your stomach drop. You dismissed it, right? Because you were busy. Because you didn't want to make it a thing. Because you told yourself you were probably reading too much into it. You probably weren't. The people who operate this way, the Patricius of the world, they count on you being too busy, too generous, too reasonable to ask the follow-up question. They are not malicious every single time, but they're deliberate every single time. And the way you protect yourself is not by becoming suspicious of everyone you love. It's by learning to ask the one question they hate most. Did anyone ask me? Not. Is this okay? Not. Does this make sense? Not. What would a good daughter-in-law do here? Just, did anyone ask me? If the answer is no, that's your answer. When I walked into my cabin that Friday morning and found 4 people, my wine open on the counter, a full engagement party calendar on my dining table, Belle looked up at me. She didn't apologize. She said, "Mom allowed it. This house will be hers anyway." And when I called Patricia later, my mother-in-law, she said the word family 3 times in 2 minutes. It's family, Holly. Family takes care of family. Family doesn't read contracts, sweetheart. That last one. Write that one down. Family doesn't read contracts, sweetheart. I want to tell you something that took me 4 years to understand. The word family, when used by the person who benefits most from your compliance, is not an expression of love. It is a negotiation tactic. It is designed to make you feel like asserting your legal rights is an act of aggression. Like protecting what's yours is a betrayal. Like the contract that says your name is actually rude to bring up at the table. Think about how many times you've heard this version of it. We don't need to make it formal, we're family. You're really going to make us sign something. We're not strangers. Can't you just trust me? I'm your mother. Every single one of those sentences is asking you to trade a legal protection for a feeling. And the feeling isn't even real. It's the feeling they want you to have so they don't have to respect the protection. My Aunt Margaret figured this out the hard way in 1979. Her sister-in-law took her house. With smiles. With casseroles. with the assumption that family meant shared ownership when it was convenient and someone else's problem when it wasn't. Margaret spent 42 years holding that. And the only thing she did with it, the only thing, was build a wall around me before I knew I needed one. She wrote it by hand, on cream paper in fountain pen. This cabin is for Holly, for her quiet when she needs it. I write this because my own sister-in-law took my house in 1979. I will not let that happen to my niece. That letter sat in a folder in my desk drawer for 5 years. I didn't open it. I filed it under old wounds, not mine. I was wrong. Those wounds found me anyway. They just wore a different name. The lesson here is simple. Documentation is not distrust. A signed paper is not an insult. It is the only language that survives a family dinner. If someone in your life is asking you to keep something informal because you're family, that sentence alone is your cue to make it formal. I want to talk about Mark for a minute, because this story isn't just about Patricia and Belle. It's about 4 years of a man who loved me and still made me invisible, not out of cruelty, but out of avoidance. On the drive to Aspen that Sunday, the morning of the eviction, Mark told me something he'd never said before. His mother had asked him 4 times since we got married when I was going to transfer the cabin into both our names. 4 times. And every single time, he told her it wasn't her business. I didn't know. He never told me. I asked him why. He took a breath and said, "Because if I told you, you'd have asked me to tell her clearly. And I didn't want to lose my mom." And I said, "By not doing that, you lost a piece of me instead." That's point 3, and it's the one I think about the most. When someone you love protects you from a conflict by keeping you in the dark, they are not protecting you. They are protecting themselves. And you are the one absorbing the cost. For years of Thursday dinners where Patricia scheduled things around me. For years of Belle operating in my spaces like they were hers. For years of Mark saying, "I'll talk to her," and meaning, "I'll let it settle." And the whole time I thought I was being patient. I thought I was being the bigger person. I thought my silence was generosity. It wasn't. It was invisibility. And I had agreed to it. I'm not angry at Mark for that. I genuinely am not. He was raised in a family where keeping the peace meant keeping quiet, where love was expressed through logistics and proximity, not through honest conversation. He didn't know how to be loud in the right moments because no one had ever modeled that for him. But here is what I know now. Being the easygoing one is not a personality trait. It is a habit. And like all habits, it serves someone. Ask yourself, who does your silence serve? If your answer is everyone but me, then you already know what needs to change. I want to walk you through what happened the Sunday of the eviction, because I think people expect this kind of story to end in a screaming match, in tears, in some big speech where the protagonist finally says everything she's been holding in. That's not what happened. I drove to Aspen in a navy blazer and black slacks. I packed a folder with a notarized deed, a trust addendum, a notice to vacate, and 3 copies of each. The locksmith was booked for 3 p.m. Deputy Ray Olson met us at the bottom of the driveway at 12:45. When we walked into that cabin, there were 23 guests, a buffet spread, a banner with gold script, 3 bottles of champagne, and a fireplace. The fireplace I had repointed myself, with a banner hanging above it celebrating an engagement I had not been invited to. And I did not say a word. Deputy Olson read the notice. Flat voice. Professional.
No editorializing.
This is a notice to vacate. The property is owned solely by Holly Reynolds, recorded September 14, 2021. All occupants who entered without express written permission of the owner are required to vacate within 60 minutes. Patricia opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Belle said, "Mom, what?" Trevor, Belle's fiancé, a man I had never properly met, turned to Belle and asked the question I had been waiting for without knowing I was waiting for it. "Did you tell me this cabin was yours?" Belle's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Mom said, "Did you tell me this cabin was yours?" That's when I understood something. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You need the truth to be the loudest thing in the room. And if you've done your paperwork, it will be. Pastor Henderson, who had been sitting on my sofa with a soda water, stood up slowly. He didn't say anything. He just stood. The way someone stands when they've decided to be a witness instead of a guest. That was the moment Patricia's composure cracked. Within 20 minutes, the Whitmores had stepped outside. The college friends had retrieved their handbags. Diane and Tara had left without a goodbye. And Belle was sobbing in the back hallway, not because of the eviction, but because Trevor had taken half a step away from her on the polished oak floor and looked at his mother instead.
No screaming. No speeches.
No long overdue confrontation over the dinner table. Just a deed. Read aloud. In front of witnesses. When you have documentation, you don't have to convince anyone of anything. You just have to stand there while the paper does what paper does. The people in Patricia's life had been listening to her version of the story for years. That Sunday, they heard a different version. From a uniformed officer. With a county seal on it. That version doesn't get reframed at the next Thursday dinner. 2 weeks after that Sunday, here's where things stood. Belle and Trevor are still engaged. The wedding moved to a small venue in Boulder. 12 guests. Patricia, in a smaller role and a quieter dress. The cabin is rented through April. 2 veterinarians. 1 elderly border collie asleep in front of my fireplace. Mark and I started therapy. Our therapist, Dr. Levy, asked on the first session, "What's the rule going forward?" I said, 12 months. Patricia does not enter the cabin. We don't discuss it at family dinners unless Mark brings it up. After 12 months, we revisit. Mark said, agreed. Dr. Levy wrote it down. Then she asked about Thursday dinners. I said, every other week. I picked the time. She looked at us and said, "You two are the easiest couple I've had this month." And Mark laughed. A real laugh. The first one in weeks. Here's what I want you to hear in that moment. The boundary didn't destroy the marriage. The absence of boundaries almost did. For 4 years, I thought that protecting my peace meant the family would fall apart. That Patricia would turn Mark against me. That I'd become the villain in everyone else's story. That being right wasn't worth the cost. I was calculating wrong. The cost of staying silent wasn't zero. It was compounding interest. Every dinner I sat through and smiled. Every time I let its family override what I knew to be true. Every time Mark said, "I'll talk to her," and I let him disappear into that conversation alone. All of it accumulated, silently, in the space between what I said and what I meant. The leather folder my aunt left me has been sitting on the top shelf of my office behind glass for 2 weeks now, in a place where it can be seen, not borrowed. Margaret approved of that placement. I'm sure of it. Aunt Margaret wrote something in that addendum that I didn't understand when I was 29. I understand it now at 34. She wrote, "Your signature is not a stroke of ink. It is the only thing standing between your life and the people who believe they have a claim on it." So here's what I want you to do tonight. Think about whether there's a folder in your life you haven't opened. A conversation you've been filing under, not mine to deal with. A boundary that exists only in your head, not on paper, not out loud, not in any room where it actually matters. Go check. Tonight. Because the people who believe they have a claim on your life are not waiting for a good moment. They are already planning the next 4 months. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had to draw a line the hard way? Or are you sitting on a folder right now you know you should open? Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. These stories come out every Thursday. And trust me, next week's is one you're going to want to hear from the very beginning. I'll see you then.